So today we're going to go back to Nigeria. This is part 2 of a 2-part series where we've looked at the declining production from the Niger Delta, and now we're going to look at the frontier basins and do they hold the potential for delivering and changing the production profile of Nigeria. You'll find the link down below for part 1, so please go and have a look at that before perhaps looking at this one. Today we're going to look at the Joint Development Zone and Nigeria's frontier basins. So to start with, the JDZ, it's a joint development area between Nigeria and Sao Tome and Principe. So it's located here on this map. Here's Nigeria to the north and Sao Tome and Principe. So this is the zone in here. There have been 8 wells drilled. They've been shows. The recent Jaka 1, which we did a video on, is about 80 kilometers down to the south of here, so not really relevant to the JDZ. But no commercial finds within the zone. Water depths, very deep water, ultra deep water, 1,600 to 3,000 plus meters water depth. Now, 70 prospects and leads have been identified. Many of them are shown on these maps in here. We have details on all the fields and discoveries in this entire region within our TROVE Nigeria database. But there's been no drilling activity since 2012. Here's an example of an asset tab, and this is one for the JDZ, so it gives all the information about the opportunities, the geology, and the companies that are involved, maps, seismic, well logs, an audit trail, and more. We've got every field and discovery. There's the contact. Here's a map of Nigeria, and here's the Niger Delta complex. Part 1 of this 2-part series was dedicated to looking at the Niger Delta complex. Now today we're going to look at some of these other basins in the region, and the other basins are the Cretaceous and Tertiary basins in the region, and it's expected that there's going to be greater exploration focus on these basins in coming years. Now, NNPC say that frontier exploration will increase Nigeria's reserves from 37 to 50 billion barrels of oil, but it has to be found first. The former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, he said drilling for hydrocarbons in frontier basins is crucial to Nigeria's survival as a nation. So no pressure there. So let's have a look at these basins in a bit more detail. Here's the first of the basins, Benue Trough. Now this is the sort of failed arm of a triple junction. You can see this is the triple junction here. Now we know that the South Atlantic opened up along these 2 arms, but the Benue Trough here, shown on this map here, this was the failed arm. It is underexplored. There's been talk of recent discoveries, exploration work ongoing. Up to 20,000 feet of sediments. A lot of it is Cretaceous. Now it's about 1,000 kilometers long and 50 to 250 kilometers wide, so it is a significant geological feature. Now within the Benue Trough, it contains alluvial, fluvial and marine sediments. There's supposed to be 2 petroleum systems. There's an early Cretaceous system, which may control both the oil and gas-prone source rocks, and a late Cretaceous system, which is mainly gas prone. And here you can see the stratigraphy for the Benue Trough from lower Benue all the way up to the Chad-Bornu Basin here, right up towards Chad. So you see we're basically going from the southwest up to the northeast. So we would kind of offer a word of caution, and that is that there's a lot of fake news out there. The level of excitement and expectation is so high, news headlines don't always seem to kind of keep up with reality. Many wells have a presidential ceremony, but that's actually to mark the spud of the well, not necessarily the result of it. Wells often get called discoveries before they're even drilled. So a word of caution, just watch very, very closely. We've seen comparisons to Saudi Arabia's fields. That's possibly a little early, and reliable technical information is very, very limited. And really some of this has to be fact-checked. And we need to actually delve into the headlines. Here are some headlines. And, typical NNPC discovers oil and to drill first well in March. So a discovery before the well's drilled. The state joins oil-producing states. This is again ahead of the spud of the exploration well. And so it goes on. Bahari says the new oil discovery was in line with the ongoing campaigns for the exploration of crude oil and gas in the frontier basins. This is comments at the spud of the exploration. Well, giving the impression that it's already been a success. Well, let's wait until it's drilled and see what happens, should we? So we look at some of the news there's been about the frontier basins. They're currently drilling on the Wadi-B structure up in the Chad Basin. It's reported to have a billion-barrel potential, around about 14,000 feet. Now, 23 wells have been drilled in the basin. It's between the 1970s and 90s. Studies sort of stalled due to insurgency, and work's only really resumed recently. But the well spudded in May 2023, and we'll be keeping an eye on the results of that. In terms of a commercial discovery, there is one in the Benue Trough, Angola Basin, and this was the Kolmani River. It's supposedly commercial discovery. Work is ongoing to develop it. It's quoted as being a 1 billion barrel, 500 TCF field, discovered in 2019. We don't have an awful lot of information out in the public domain to actually verify the size of the field. And then here's another well here. The Benny A is operating at TD, again in the Benue Trough. It spudded in March 2023, so again, we'll be watching out for that. So, in summary, efforts are being made to arrest the declining reserves, and we are starting to see drilling in these frontier basins. But though they hold a lot of potential, there's still a lot of work to be done, and it'll be years before significant production is realized, we predict. Little technical information is published on these frontier basins, but be very wary of media headlines. Niger Delta, that's the place where all the oil and gas is going to be coming from in the foreseeable future. And there must be opportunities for other developments in the region. And operators like Seplat will be able to have a fresh look at some of the offshore blocks. Trove, we'd say, is a fantastic source of data for the Niger Delta and indeed for the frontier basins. We have an audit trail so you can see where all the information comes from. And yeah, probably a best way to start if you're thinking about looking for opportunities in Nigeria, onshore or offshore. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and get in touch. We can give you a demo and show you just how amazing the Trove database is. And if you're missing out, well, your competitors aren't.